It began with silence. Not the kind that soothes, but the kind that thickens the air between two people who once knew how to laugh together. Rajat and I had been married for 4 years, and somewhere along the way, the closeness we once shared had become replaced by a quiet efficiency. Two people coexisting under the same roof, speaking only in reminders and routines. Every morning followed the same pattern. I would wake before him, make tea, pack his lunch, and wait at the dining table while he dressed in silence. His eyes rarely met mine anymore, and when they did, it felt like obligation, not affection. He'd mutter a distracted thanks before heading out, always checking his watch more than he checked on me. I began to dread the afternoons the most. The stillness of the house echoed with unspoken loneliness. I would try to fill the emptiness, organizing drawers that didn't need organizing, scrolling endlessly through social media, sometimes just standing by the window watching the world outside move without me. Rajat worked late most nights. Deadlines, he'd say. Clients, pressure. Just a few more weeks. I'd nod like I understood. But deep down I knew he was slipping away, not to another woman, but to a version of himself that didn't need me anymore. Then Karen arrived. He was Rajat's younger brother, 6 years his junior, and had come to stay with us while looking for work in the city. It was supposed to be temporary, a week or two at most. I wasn't thrilled by the idea of playing host, but I smiled and said it was fine. Karen was different from Rajat in almost every way. Where Rajat was rigid and measured, Karen was loose and disarming. His presence was like sudden sunlight in a cold room, uninvited, but not unwelcome. He noticed things, small things, that I always added too much sugar to my tea when I was sad, that I hummed old songs when I cooked, that I never ate a full meal when Rajat wasn't home. "You always eat alone?" he asked on his second evening. I shrugged. "It's easier that way." He didn't reply, but that night, he waited until I had served myself before touching his plate. At first, I dismissed it as politeness. But soon, I began to feel the shift. He asked how I was, not in passing, but like he truly wanted to know. He remembered what I had said the day before. He laughed at jokes Rajat never even listened to. And when I laughed back, it felt unfamiliar. My own voice surprised me. I didn't tell Rajat any of this. There wasn't space for it between our obligatory goodnights and his endless phone calls. He barely seemed to register Karen's presence beyond the occasional, "How's the job hunt?" One afternoon, I caught Karen watching me as I dusted the bookshelf. He didn't look away when our eyes met. Instead, he smiled, a soft, understanding smile, not laced with flirtation but something else entirely. Recognition, maybe. As if he saw through me. I felt something then. Not desire, not yet. Just a ripple in the still water I had been floating in for months. Later that night, as we passed each other in the hallway, he said quietly, "You look tired." I paused. "I guess I am. You don't have to pretend, you know." I didn't answer. But I didn't forget either. The next morning, Rajat left early again, barely finishing the toast I had buttered with too much care. I watched the door close behind him and exhaled, feeling heavier than before. When I turned, Karen was already in the kitchen, boiling water for tea. "For both of us?" I asked. He smiled without turning. "Only if you promise to drink the whole cup this time." That was the first morning in weeks I didn't feel invisible. It was a Thursday when the shift became undeniable. The rain had arrived unannounced, sweeping across the windows in sheets, muting the outside world. Rajat had left early that morning, forgetting the lunch I had packed. I texted him. No reply. When I mentioned it aloud while tidying the kitchen, Karen looked up from his book and said, "He probably won't notice." His voice wasn't mocking, it was laced with something else. Resentment, maybe. Or understanding. "He's just busy," I said almost by reflex. Karen tilted his head. "He's always busy. But you wait for him like time owes you something." I blinked. No one had ever put it that way before. Especially not someone who noticed me that much. Later that day, while I folded laundry, Karen walked in with a small, neatly wrapped parcel. "What's this?" I asked, surprised. He hesitated for half a second. Just thought of you when I saw them. Inside were a pair of delicate silver earrings. Simple, but beautiful. I can't accept this, I said, my voice low. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Why not? Because I'm the wrong man? I opened my mouth, but the words tangled in my throat. It's just a gift, Anaya. Not a proposal. But the way he said my name, it was more intimate than a touch. That night, I avoided looking at Rajat during dinner. He spoke about a presentation, about numbers and delays. I nodded where it felt right. My thoughts drifted, my ears ringing not from his words, but from the silence that always came after them. The next day, Rajat had a work emergency and left before sunrise. Karen lingered in the kitchen, helping me prepare breakfast. We moved in a quiet rhythm. For the first time, it felt like someone was with me, not just around me. As we cleaned up, he reached for a mug at the same time I did. Our fingers brushed. I froze. He didn't. His gaze locked with mine. 1,000 unsaid things hung between us. I stepped back. He didn't follow. But he didn't look away either. That evening, we cooked dinner together. Rajat messaged that he'd be late again. The kitchen became a space of laughter, of playful teasing. Karen sprinkled too much chili in the curry and claimed it was an adventure meal. I laughed, truly laughed, for the first time in months. Music played faintly from my phone, and in a moment that felt too natural to be real, he reached for my hand and pulled me into a slow dance. My body resisted at first, conscience tugging, but my heart didn't. We moved slowly, carefully. The kind of closeness that feels like a question. He leaned in. I let him. The kiss was soft. Curious. It didn't demand, it asked. And I answered. When we parted, I stumbled back, breathless. This is wrong. I know, he whispered. But did it feel wrong to you? I didn't respond. My chest ached with guilt and something worse, longing. I walked to the sink and turned on the tap, hoping the cold water would wash away whatever we had just crossed. He stayed behind me, silent. Not pressuring, just present. The rest of the night passed in awkward stillness. I went to bed early, but I didn't sleep. My mind replayed every look, every word, every stolen breath. What frightened me most wasn't that it happened. It was that I didn't regret it. The next morning, the house felt heavier. Rajat returned to his usual routine: coffee, newspaper, silence. He didn't notice the shift. Or maybe he did, and chose not to ask. Karen avoided my gaze. But later, as I passed by the hallway, he said softly, "Say the word, and I'll never touch you again." I didn't say anything. I just kept walking. But my silence spoke volumes. The days that followed were colder, despite the sun. Not in temperature, but in touch, in tone, in everything that wasn't said. Karen and I kept our distance. Not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally. As if acknowledging what had happened would shatter the fragile walls we had both hastily rebuilt. I avoided his gaze at breakfast, speaking only when necessary. He mirrored my restraint, but his silence felt heavier than Rajat's ever had. There was pain in it, unresolved, unvoiced, but present in every glance that lingered too long. Rajat remained unchanged. Or maybe unchanged was the wrong word. He was unaware, untouched by the tension in the air. Or perhaps he noticed, but found it easier to ignore. He still left early, returned late, spoke in data points and deadlines. To him, the house was intact. One afternoon, as I watered the balcony plants, Mrs. Sharma from next door leaned over the rail with her usual smile, too sweet to trust. "Karen seems to enjoy staying home these days," she said lightly, stirring her tea. I offered a polite nod. "He passed by your bedroom window around noon yesterday. Thought I saw him come out." The cup trembled in my hand. She smiled again and added, "Young men can get comfortable." I forced a laugh and retreated inside, locking the door behind me with a sense of panic that coiled in my chest. We hadn't been careful enough. Or maybe there was no such thing as careful when you were playing with fire. That evening, Rajat found the earrings. I had hidden them carelessly, in a drawer I thought he never opened. He stood by the dresser, holding them between his fingers like foreign objects. "Are these yours?" he asked. My heartbeat quickened. "Yes." "Mrs. Sharma gave them to me for Diwali," I lied. He nodded once, slow and unconvinced. "You've never worn them." I forgot I had them. He placed them down without comment, but his silence felt different this time. Less detached. Sharper. Like he was adding things up, quietly. That night, I couldn't sleep. The ceiling fan hummed above me, steady and indifferent. Karen's bedroom door remained closed, the house unnaturally still. The next morning, Karen came to me while Rajat was in the shower. He looked tired. Not physically, but in the way people look when they've been holding something inside too long. "I'm leaving," he said. I felt my stomach drop. "Today?" "This evening. A friend offered me a place to crash. It's better this way." I didn't argue. I didn't plead. But I didn't want him to go either. He stepped closer, eyes searching mine. "You don't have to say anything. But I need you to know, I meant it. All of it. Every word. Every look, every moment." I looked down, ashamed of how much I had needed to hear that. "You still love him?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. "I'm married to him." "That's not what I ask." "I don't know," I admitted. "Some days, I feel like I'm mourning someone who's still alive." He nodded, sadness flickering in his eyes. "And with me?" "You made me feel seen." He reached out but stopped short of touching me. "I never wanted to be your mistake." "You weren't," I whispered. "But you can't be my future either." He left that evening without another word. Rajat didn't ask where he'd gone. Or maybe he already knew. In the days that followed, the silence returned, but it was no longer hollow. It was dense, like fog, obscuring everything. Rajat and I resumed our routines. He talked more, oddly enough. About work. About new furniture. About a possible trip. I smiled, nodded, played my part. But something inside had shifted. Permanently. Every now and then, I would reach into the drawer and feel the cool metal of those earrings. I never wore them. But I didn't throw them away either. I wasn't sure what I was keeping, his memory or my own guilt. I remained faithful in name, in role, in appearance. But part of me lived elsewhere now. With someone who saw me, even if just for a moment.